Hello and welcome to the Proline TV web show. Everyone out there is talking about Brett Favre, Jen Sturger, and the issue with the phone and what he sent and if he did it. But I look at things from a gaming perspective. How does this affect the Minnesota Vikings? How does it affect other players on the team? And how can we take advantage of that from a betting perspective, which is what we do. We're in Las Vegas. We really don't care what happens to these guys. You know, they're out there doing their own thing. They have a right to do whatever they do. If they break the law, they should get punished. Dave, how do you use this information to make you more money, either on or against the Vikings?
Well, I think what you have to do is look and see as much as possible each individual situation and what the impact of it is going to be. I haven't seen any real negative impact on the Vikings as far as this goes. The players, you know, I think I got to tell you something, and I hate to be throwing a blanket over the whole NFL because I'm sure if you break it down individually, it's probably not an incredible percentage. But I think a lot of the players are probably looking at this and saying, well, that could be me. Because, you know, let's face it, it's big-time pro athletes, maybe not exactly the most faithful group in the country. They're women throwing themselves at them. And so to me, on a football team, I think that you're probably going to have most situations where it doesn't have much of an impact. You know, it's just, okay, we'll have to worry about that. Let's just kind of go about business as usual and try and win games.
Well, I agree. I mean, one of the things, 20 years ago, right as I was starting to get into this business, I was doing some interning right out of school with a couple of minor league sports leagues, one hockey and one basketball. It was a 6'5" and under league. You guys might remember it 20 years ago or so.
Oh, sure.
And
Silver Streaks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was one of the teams. But what I was going to say is that there was so much weird stuff going on after the games that I don't want to get into, that I agree with you when you said there's probably 80% of the other players out there who are thinking, uh-oh, that could be me. What I look at also is what I know from back being with those organizations back then is that they're, how do you want to call it, probably they're, where they think the clearest when they're going through something like this is between those yard lines, between those sidelines, I should say. And that's what I noticed back then when I was with a couple of minor league organizations, is that the guys who were in trouble, who were doing some weird stuff away from the court or away from the ice, were actually incredibly focused once the puck dropped or once the ball was tossed in the air for the opening tip-off. I thought that Minnesota, and by all means, they should have covered that game on Monday night. You get that last pick, which Favre tends to do whether he's in trouble or not. But the bottom line was, I mean, as badly as that team played for the first half, yet they were in the game with arguably one of the top 4 teams in the NFL. That tells me that if Brett Favre escapes this whole deal, doesn't have to pay for this, that this is going to be one heck of a football team the second half of the season.
Exactly the point I wanted to make, because they did stay focused. He had a terrible, and the first half was terrible. Second half he played like Brett, old-time Brett. Yeah, the pick at the end, that also is old-time Brett, happens a lot. I heard somebody bragging that they had the Jets the other day. It was an easy win. I don't know. It wasn't me, believe me.
Well, I had the Jets and over, and believe me, it's like even in my free pick one, it's like I said, okay, well, we kind of
skirted that one.
The rules say I have to take the money for having those two, but not the greatest players.
Look at this team. Now they have Randy Moss, they have Harvin, and they're going to get Rice back. Now, Brett Favre, and they got Peterson in the back. He's not a bad guy back there, and their offensive line's pretty good. This is going to be a devastatingly tough team to defend as time goes on. If he can stay out of trouble with this thing and stay focused, this is where the betting perspective comes in. This team looks to me like the best team to win the NFC and to take it all the way into the playoffs and maybe to the Super Bowl, if they can stay focused and out of this mess that the media is building up out there.
Just don't lose a couple of more games in the next couple of weeks. That's the only problem. Because if they do fade, Andy's getting in trouble, then this team could kind of implode a little bit.
That's right.
So.
We're going to be right back with more on Proline TV.
Hi, I'm Al McMorty, and is there anything hotter right now in the country than my Vegas Strip moves? Now a documented 14-0 on the season. Last week, easy winners, Louisiana State and the Washington Redskins. This week, we're featuring our college revenge Game of the year. It's a big Vegas strip move play out of a 24-0 angle that's never lost in 30 seasons. And it's only $19 today. Pick it up right now. Call toll free 866-896-1628. Just $19 gets you our 15th win in a row. Do not miss this opportunity. Make the call right now. Call toll free 866-896-1628. Our Vegas strip move revenge game of the year. It goes Saturday. Pick it up today. 866-896-1628. Call now.
Okay, we're back. We're going to have a big game to talk about in the Pac-10 USC Cal. But first of all, Big Al, you have a big game coming up this weekend, and you've been red hot. I know those Vegas strip things are just crazy. With 14-0?
14-0 now, Tim. You know, eventually they're going to lose, okay? But they're not going to lose this weekend. I guarantee you that. And we're featuring our Vegas Strip Move revenge game of the year in college football. It's out of a 24-0 ATS angle that hasn't lost in 31 seasons, going all the way back to 1980. And the 25th win in a row, it's only $19. We've had record number of calls the last few weeks as these Vegas Strip Moves have gone all the way up to 14-0 after cashing with Louisiana State and the Redskins last weekend. Don't miss the 15th win in a row. If you've been sitting on the sidelines, you better make the call right now. Call toll free 866-896-1628. It's our Vegas Strip Move revenge game of the year. It goes Saturday. Make the call right now. 866-896-1628. Only $19 for this huge winner on Saturday.
Can I get a discount?
I'll give it to you for free.
Oh, good. All right. Let's talk about this game. When I look at this game, I see a lot of technical advantages here to one side. But, you know, when I look at California on the road, they haven't been that good so far. At home, they've been devastating. But they're on the road in this game at USC. Now, of course, USC's been down this year. They have this all the penalties and everything else that they're dealing with. This isn't the same club they've been over the years. Dave, what do you see here?
See, here's the thing. 2 weeks ago, all we heard after USC lost their first conference game was, well, you know, there's no way Lane Kiffin's going to be able to motivate this team now because now they really got nothing to play for. You know, they can't go to a bowl. They're not in the national title picture. But until they lost that first Pac-10 game, it's like, well, they can still focus on winning the conference. And they lose to Washington, and basically everybody looked at last week's game against Stanford and said, well, you know, how are they going to get up for this game? Looks like they got up for it. Turned out to be a great football game, one of the best games I've seen all year. And, you know, came down to the wire, 37-30, whatever it was, 37-35. Stanford barely gets out with the win. And that's a good football team. So USC is clearly capable of playing with California. The question is, when does this meltdown come? Because I do think it will happen. What I don't have is, and I really think that's tough to handicap, what I don't think is difficult to handicap is the fact that USC still doesn't have any, you know, motivated or not, they don't have any speed in the defensive backfield. These are not, I don't care if they're on probation or not, they still get a slow defensive backfield. They got burned the entire game against Hawaii. They got burned again last week. California's got the speed at wide receiver to exploit them. At the same time, you've got a terrific offense with Matt Barkley throwing the ball for USC. They want to put up great numbers. I think you're going to get another typical high-scoring Pac-10 game here. I like the over in this, Al.
The over in the game is 53.5, in case you don't know, and the USC is 2.5 at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I personally love California in the spot. I mean, absolutely love the Bears. You know, really, they've played just one bad game all season. You mentioned they're not playing well on the road. Well, the game against Arizona, they did everything but win that game. They covered the spread as a 6-point dog, losing only 10-9. That's a pretty good game, even though they didn't come out, you know, with a victory. The only bad game they played was against a pistol office in Nevada. You know, and that was very predictable. I mean, I expected Nevada to blow them out that game, and they did. So really, I look at California here. Great situation. They're playing great ball this season. Southern Cal, as Dave mentioned, you know, terrible against Hawaii, terrible against Minnesota. I liked Southern Cal a lot last week. Big play for me. Not surprising that, you know, they played well against Stanford. But now off that narrow loss, I just think Southern Cal just completely lets down this week. It
could happen.
Yeah, and I'm going to take the points with California.
You could be right. I mean, I go with Dave on this and look at the over. I think there's going to be a lot of points. You know, if they really let down, you're just going to see both teams try to show off. They got a lot of reasons to show off. I mean, these are kids, and they don't want to go out there and play bad football. I mean, they may not be totally motivated, but I think you're going to see a lot of points in this game and not a lot of defense. We'll be right back.
6-0, 100% winners last Saturday with my high-end college football plays, those rated KO or higher. How about a 7-0 run with my NFL top dogs, 20-9 with the NFL overall, 7-1 with my college and pro football blockbuster blowouts, 88% winners. We got them all going together this weekend at Smashmouth Sports. You're going to receive for just $25 my first top 5 college and pro football countdown of the season. You'll get 3 plays in college football beginning with a 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific kickoff, a big morning massacre. We'll take you right through Saturday with 3 plays, 2 more on Sunday, including a top dog shocker. All you got to do is call 1-866-896-1627. That's 1-866-896-1627. Get all 5 plays from Smashmouth Sports for $25. Hey, you know the drill. You make the call, I count it down, and you count the cash.
We're back. We're going to talk about Ohio State and Wisconsin. Ohio State's now the #1 team in the country now that Alabama has lost. And they're on the road at Wisconsin laying 4 points, and the total is 49.5. I have some strong opinions about this game, but before we get into it, let's go to Scott Spreitzer. This guy's 6-0 in his college games last weekend and 7-0 with his pro underdogs. On fire, Scott, and I know you got something big coming up this week.
It's been real nice, Jim. 6-0 with our high-end plays in college football last Saturday. In the pros, as Jim just mentioned, 7-0 with our last 7 underdogs in the NFL. 11-3, 79% winners with our NFL dogs so far this season. 9 of those 11 dogs have won the game outright. That's how red hot we've been. We're going to rack it up. We're going to do it again. We've got a huge weekend going right now. It all starts at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Saturday. Don't sleep in. You snooze, you lose. It's a top 5 countdown, first one of the season. 3 plays in college football, 2 plays from the pros, including a big underdog shocker you don't want to miss out on. You're also going to get a blockbuster blowout. Those plays are 88%, 7-1 so far this season. All you have to do is call 1-866-896-1627. $25 gets all 5 plays in the countdown. 1-866-896-1627. Hey, you know the drill. You make the call, I count them down, and you count the cash. Ohio State whiskey. I used to say Camp Randall. You know when whiskey was struggling for so long before Barry Alvarez get there? I always thought that the 2 sleeping giants of college football back then were the Missouri Tigers because of the fertile recruiting ground in the St. Louis area, and the Wisconsin Badgers because they support that team so well. Alvarez comes in, does great. Bielema's done all right. I think he's a little bit overrated.
Well, he probably is, but he hates losing to Ohio State.
Sure.
But he hasn't beaten them yet. He says, I hate losing to Ohio State, but you're 0-3. What are you going to do about it this week? Ohio State's coming in. They're #1 in the country. They got this kid, Terrell Pryor, who's a Heisman candidate. He's red hot as well. Running game's a little questionable. Al, what do you think?
Well, you know, I think I was the only guy on the panel last week who liked South Carolina against Alabama. They didn't do so bad, did they? Ohio State now falls into the same system that Alabama fell into last week. And I'm going to fade the Buckeyes here. You know, if you take a look at what road favorites do that are 5-0 or better, if they're priced from -3.5 to -15 points, they're now 32-64 against the spread long term. And then if they're matched up against an opponent that has a win percentage of 720 or better, that goes all the way down to 16-2 that they fail to cover the spread. I'm going to take the points with the Badgers here.
Well, with those kind of stats, how can you not?
Well, yeah, I don't
Let
know.
me tell you, you walk to the window and you pluck it off.
Right.
But I am with you. I like the Wisconsin Badgers in this game. And, you know, our good friend Pat Williams, he's a big Buckeye fan, by the way.
Well, yeah, he walks around here with the shirt on and the hat.
I know. He's a pain in the rear. But anyway, I've got a Doss jersey from the early 2000s when they won the championship over Miami. But I will not wear that because I don't want to see Pat smiling from ear to ear when I walk in with a Buckeye jersey. But I'll tell you, I agree with Al on this game. I'm taking the points in this contest. I'm not sold, and as Pat said, what I was referring to, and he watches them every day. I mean, any chance he gets, he watches the games over and over when it comes to the Buckeyes. It's not a consistent running game. It puts too much pressure on Terrell Pryor, who can handle most of that pressure, but I think when you step up in competition is where he's going to have a little bit of a problem. So far, they've basically played just one legitimate football team, and that's the Illinois Fighting Illini, and that could have gone either way at one point of the contest. I think it's going to be a real tough game for the Buckeyes. I don't like the way they've looked in a couple of these cupcake opponent games that they played. They caught Indiana at the right time, by the way. In fact, I had Ohio State last week. They win 38-10. But Indiana was off that huge emotional game against Michigan, a game in which they had circled a year ago, lose the game. when they go into Ohio State and Ohio State wipes them out up 28-0 early in the second quarter and goes on to get the cover. But this week, I think it's going to be a real tough spot. I agree with you, Al. I got to back the
Teams
Badgers.
do have different personalities at home and on the road. This is a tough spot. It's like Alabama last week. By the way, Pat Williams says he likes the under. The total is 49.5. I agree with Pat Williams. We're going to be right back.
Hi everyone, Dave Koken, and last Saturday could not have been any better. I had a spectacular day, basically ran the table in college football for the entire day, and that of course included the big game winner on my college revenge game of the year as NC State annihilated Boston College. This week, I'm coming back with something just as strong. It's my college football game of the month. Going to be selling it online for $99, but here's a way you can get it for just $25 with a great guarantee. Call 1-866-841-1665, and I'll give you the game for just $25, and I'll guarantee it gets the money, or you get all my action and under the hat plays for the rest of October completely free of charge. Again, it's my college game of the month, guaranteed to get the money for just $25 at 1-866-841-1665.
Okay, we're back, and we're going to the NFL. That's right. We're going to talk some pro football. We got Kansas City against Texas. Man, these two teams, there's a lot to say about these clubs, but there's a lot to say about Dave Koken. Last week...
None of it good, no.
Well, some of it's good.
Some of it's good, okay.
Last week, huge play on Utah. Man, was that an easy winner. And then he had a revenge game of the year, I believe it was of the year, right?
Yep.
And that was NC State, another huge winner. And this week... you've got a game of the month, a huge game of the month.
Yeah, well, I'm not real big on splashing the board. I've always been one who's trying to isolate 2 or 3 really good plays on a Saturday. I mean, high-end stuff that you can pound. And I've been very good at that over the years. And this year's no exception. Last week, 2 games that just absolutely stood out to me. Utah, I sent that out to all my personal service customers early in the week. Told them to get it at 6 or 6.5, and they just annihilated Iowa State. And then, for anybody who watched Proline last week, I said my revenge game of the year is going to be an easy winner. It was one of the better setups you'll see at any time. And NC State just crushed Boston College. O'Brien was still looking for his first win against the team he used to coach. It was the first time he had the better team, and they took full advantage. Very easy winner. I know you had a big play on that as well.
I did, yes.
So this week, there are a couple of games that to me stand out way above the rest. And one of them I'm going to use for my college football game of the month. Now, this game's going to be, it's like last week, I'm going to sell it for a lot more than this online. Now, you want to buy it online, you're more than welcome. I'll be happy to get the big money on those on the game from you. But here's the way to go about getting the game. Save yourself a bunch of money and get a guarantee. You call 1-866-841-1665. I'm going to give you my college game of the month for just $25 and a guarantee that you've got to get paid on this game, or you're going to get all my remaining action and under the hat plays for the entire balance of October completely free of charge, and that's college and pro football. 1-866-841-1665, guaranteed college game of the month winner.
Sounds like a big one.
It is.
We've got a big one to talk about right here, Dave. We got Kansas City visiting Texas, and they're playing the Houston Texans. And Al, we got a poor passing team with Kansas City and a poor passing defense on the other side. So I guess there's a lot of questions, but one of them is, can Kansas City take advantage of that poor passing defense?
Well, they might be able to take advantage of it, Jim, but what I really like in this ball game is I like taking home teams to rebound off home losses, especially when they have winning records. You know, the Houston Texans last week stumbled badly, and everyone thought they were a really good team after that opening week win against Indianapolis. Then they lose to Dallas. They lose last week. So, you know, sometimes first impressions die hard. I think a lot of people might be overrating this Houston team, but you know, that notwithstanding, I really like Houston in this spot. And if you take a look at how winning teams do off home losses when they're matched up against an opponent that has a win percentage of 750 or better, they're now 8-0 against a spread when our home team is off a double-digit loss the previous week and now not favored by 9 or more points. I'm going to take Houston here.
Yeah, and I'm not a technical handicapper, so I don't use those numbers, but there's one that sticks out to me that you mentioned. Kansas City does fit in that criteria is a 750 winning percentage or better, but they're a phony 750. They're not that good, okay? They have improved, and the coaching staff's better, the defense is better, but the offense is still, they got a good running game. That's all they've got. Matt Castle is a fringy quarterback at best, and the Chiefs, a little bit phony right now. They're just not that good a football team. I think Houston's gotten a good lesson the last couple of weeks. I think they got a little bit full of themselves after the Washington comeback, and they read their own press clippings, got drilled by Dallas. They really didn't play that good a football game at Oakland. Managed to get through the game, but they weren't really that impressive in that game. And then last week, they got their asses handed to them, is the only way to put it, by the New York Giants. They got crushed in that football game. This now becomes a really big game for Houston. I think the humility factor comes into play. And now you're going to see a team that is very talented playing with not as much swagger as they were showing previously. I still think the Chiefs are a little bit overrated off the 3-0, now 3-1 start. Houston's going to nail them here. This is one spot where I like the favorite.
I agree with a lot of what you both said. The however I have in this is, yes, they beat Indianapolis, and that was a big win for them. But the next week, they went to Washington.
Yep.
Washington had them down 27-10. I had Washington in the game, and next I know I'm losing it in overtime. And that was a tough loss, but they didn't play all that well in that game. They also played terribly against Dallas, didn't play that well against Oakland, and played terrible again last week in another loss. We talk about Kansas City being overrated. Maybe Houston's overrated. Yeah, they have some bigger name players, and they've been established longer than the Kansas City players and the Kansas City coaches. But the Kansas City coaching staff, Crennel and Weiss,
Yeah.
it's not bad. They did a lot of good stuff up in New England. I'm not so sure that I like Houston in any spot, actually, unless they're a big underdog. They just haven't performed that well on the field. We're going to come right back. Last week, I won my parlay of the year with Cincinnati 45-3 and NC State 44-17. Today is my biggest release of the year with the college game of the year. I've won this game 10 of the last 11 years by the average score of 44-16. And I hit 7 in a row with this game. This Saturday is another easy winner. I'm guaranteeing it wins by at least 2 TDs, or the rest of my executive service is absolutely free for the rest of the season. Get my 2010 College Game of the Year guaranteed for only $25 when you call 1-866-841-1655. This is $25, which is half the price you'd have to pay online. Make the call right now, 1-866-841-1655.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Got a big NFL game to look at as the defending champion Saints try and get things straightened out. They'll be going to Tampa Bay, and we'll talk about that game in a moment. How about this? 2 games, combined score of 89-20. You're in the rocking chair from start to finish. That's what happened with you last week if you were involved with Jim Feist's parlay of the year. He absolutely nailed it on Saturday. Cincinnati and NC State, both games, complete domination from start to finish, 89-20 combined. That takes a back seat because this week it's Jim's biggest game of the entire college football season. Your annual College Game of the Year is here.
That's right, Dave. It's been a good season. Last week was amazing with the parlay of the year, and this week, the 2010 College Game of the Year. Now, I've won 10 of the last 11 years with this game, and 7 in a row, and the average score of that game as well, 44-16. So these are blowouts. These are rock and share type games. Write this phone number down, 1-866-841-1655. This game is guaranteed to win by 2 touchdowns, or the rest of the executive service is free for the rest of the season. That's right. It's a $25 play when you make the phone call. That's right. It's double that online. So make the call, 1-866-841-1655. My College Game of the Year will win by over 2 touchdowns, or the rest of the executive season is free on me. Now, as far as this game is concerned, Dave, the Saints, I mean, are they still in the Super Bowl letdown malaise type thing? You know, the problem with them is they really can't run the football. 31st in the league in running the football. They're not getting the balance. They're not scoring that many points. So people are able to defend them a lot easier than they were able to a year ago, Scott.
I'd like to say I was in my rocking chair watching Arizona dominate New Orleans. We had the Cardinals last week, one of our big NFL dogs. They didn't dominate, but they found a way to win, or New Orleans found a way to lose. And it's been really strange. You know, you mentioned they're 31st in the league in rushing the football. If you go back to that Thursday night opener against the Minnesota Vikings, at the start of the second half, that's all they did. They ran the ball like 8 out of 9 times on a possession that ended up being the game-winning touchdown drive. They never scored again. They won 14-9. It's almost like this team, and of course they've had injuries since then, but it's almost like this team has, in a sense, lost their identity of what they were last year, because they're trying to run the football, but they can't run the football. They're averaging about 75 rushing yards per game. They seem to be a little bit confused on offense at times, and it's starting to cost this team a little bit. But here's the thing. Tampa Bay has not been beautiful. They've not been getting things done as far as, they haven't been meeting the eye test, so to speak. They don't look like a great football team, but they've been winning. They've been like, you were in martial arts. You studied martial arts for a long time, and you were probably taught right off the bat, use your opponent's weight against them. That's what I like to say about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have been using their opponent's weight against them and finding ways to win, because they're not stronger than the Cincinnati Bengals. They're not stronger than the teams they've been hanging with. I don't like Josh Freeman. I think he's going to be a good quarterback, but I think they're in a real rough spot here. And as you guys know, I've been playing dogs like crazy. I don't think they're going to use the weight of New Orleans against them. I think the Saints are going to be able to punish this team, win the game by 10 to 14 points.
Maybe so, but the Saints are going to have to give me a game like that first, because right now it's the Super Bowl hangover, and it's also a ton of injuries. And that Reggie Bush injury isn't going away. I mean, he's out, and they really miss this guy because he is such a weapon on third downs. They have no 3rd and 4 weapon out there now. Drew Brees is playing hurt. Pierre Thomas hasn't played the last 2 games, and Ivory is not exactly an adequate replacement. Liddell Betts, they had to use back-to-back timeouts on one play last week because Liddell Betts couldn't figure out, I guess, what the hell was going on. This is a team that's got some issues right now, and they've got the target on their back because whoever plays them, it's like, we are playing the defending Super Bowl champions. We're going to get up and play our best game of the year. I like what's going on in Tampa. I don't think they're a real talented team. I agree with your assessment on Freeman. But I'll tell you what, I think the team is buying into what their coach is selling. I think he...
that scares me. I am not a Ray Morris fan.
Well, here's the thing. He probably shouldn't have gotten that head coaching job. He probably wasn't ready for it when he got it, but I think he's growing into the job. They improved down the stretch last year. They've been a better team this year than they were last year. They're sound fundamentally. They got some decent, no real big stars on offense, but decent guys. And I just like the fundamental football they're playing. And they're a good-sized home dog here against a team that's not playing well right now. I got to look at Tampa.
Well, there's a lot of parity in this league, and it's really, we're not talking about a lot of A teams against E teams or F teams. There's a lot of kind of middle-of-the-road clubs that can offset each other. Last week, Cincinnati. With that talent and what they did last year, they should have dominated Tampa, but they screwed up. At the end of the game, they screwed up, and a lot of these good teams are screwing up. Look at Dallas; they're 1-3. The Vikings are 1-3. The Saints aren't playing that well. The Chargers aren't playing that well. These talented clubs are failing to win and to cover. So a team like this, Tampa Bay, as the season goes on, they start to gain confidence. They're not that good, but they're starting to believe in themselves. And you have a team coming in. They may be mad and they have more talent, et cetera, et cetera. But they have flaws as well. The injuries to Brees, the injuries at running back, et cetera, and they're not as hungry probably as they were a year ago. So these kind of teams, Tampa Bay's sitting there like waiting for them. It's going to be hot in Tampa. It always is at this time of year. I'm looking for Tampa to come out with the win here. We're going to come right back. It's the best bet section of the Proline TV web show. We've got 4 big games for you to cash in on. Al, you're going to start us off.
Yeah, last week the best bet was on South Carolina. Best bet's now 5-0 on the season. Our TV offers now 7-0 with a push on the season. Lots of zeros for me this year, Jim. My best bet this week is going to be on the California Golden Bears. And now get on board for my Vegas strip move. It's my revenge game of the year, and it's out of an angle that's 24-0 going back 31 seasons. Don't miss it. 866-896-1628, just $19. Our Vegas strip moves this season, a perfect 14-0. The 15th win in a row is available right now. Call toll-free 866-896-1628. Make the call.
Scott?
We're shooting for a 4th sweep of the last 5 weeks with our featured Proline packages. It's a 5-play countdown, first one of the season. 3 plays in college football. It all kicks off at 12 noon Eastern, so don't sleep in. Get them all. 3 plays in college football, 2 plays from the NFL. We told you earlier how red hot we've been in both leagues. All you got to do is call 1-866-896-1627. 1-866-896-1627. Love being on the web where I can say, you make the call, I count them down, and you count the cash. Cash, cash, cash.
You are liberated.
That's an
I like
inside
it.
joke,
I
by
know.
the way.
Yes,
Yes,
that's
right.
for us.
Dave?
There are certain things we can't say on network TV, and here we can say, I can say ass if I want.
Yes, you could.
You just said it.
But I don't have any reason to, actually, unless I'm talking about, Brett Favre or something like that. Listen, everything was just outstanding last week, including the big game, which was the college revenge game of the year. Keep winning that, baby, every season. NC State smoking Boston College last week. Today, college game of the month, and a terrific guarantee with this, because this game's going to get there for you, or you're going to get all my action and under the hat plays for the rest of October completely free of charge. It's only $25 to get this game. If you buy it online, it's going to cost you a lot more than that. But if you call 1-866-841-1665, it's only $25, plus you get the guarantee, which you also don't get online. So make sure and call the phone number, 1-866-841-1665, guaranteed college game of the month winner for just $25. And speaking of just unloading with some big winners last week, Jim Feist just did it right. College parlay of the year, and you never even had to break a sweat on these games. Not much excitement there. I mean, you win 89-20 in 2 games. Nobody had to worry at all. That's not.
As long as
it's
you're
kind of
not
fun, isn't it?
laying 50 points a game, I won both.
That's right. And the big one goes today, college game of the year with a monster guarantee.
Absolute monster guarantee. My best bet on the show is Wisconsin to upset Ohio State, just like USC, or not USC, but SC did to Alabama last week. Make this call to 1-866-841-1655. It's my college game of the year. I've won 10 of the last 11 years with this, and 7 years in a row, the average score, 44-16. This game is guaranteed to win by at least 2 touchdowns, or the rest of my executive plays are free for the rest of the season. We're going to be back next week.
And
Make
before,
sure you
before we go, I have to say one thing, because I never gave out my best bet. It's USC and California over the total, so I'll throw that in.
I don't know if I gave out mine, but I agree with you. It's Wisconsin over Ohio State, so there we go. See,
Okay.
now on network TV, we would have had a cut.
Take
we would have to
one,
do it
take
again.
two.
No, we're not
Take
doing that. We're out of here. These lights are hot. We're going home. Enjoy. Win a lot of money this weekend. We'll see you next week.